Hey everybody, welcome back to another review with me. I am your host Maxine and we are reviewing Ready to Love, season 11, episode 12, the Detroit finale. We have arrived. Let's get into it because immediately, we're popping off. And I want to say low-key it's Vince's fault. And I'm a Vince stan. I've been riding with Vince since the beginning. I was rooting for him. But I have to call a spade a spade. I do have to call a spade a spade. I think Vince came into this brunch with a chip on his shoulder and he wanted to get it off his shoulder. Okay, so let's jump into it. So we start off with all of them together and Tommy is there to announce the last steps. This is for them to meet, for the fellas to meet the women's family and to finally make their choice at that point. So obviously, we'll see how that goes. But nonetheless, this is the last step. And Tommy heads out. He does his whole spiel and, whatever decision that you make is going to be the most important decision, yada, whatever. So Tommy heads out. And of course, the cast, they're left to themselves and they're sitting down having this conversation. The conversation is about, would you do this process again? Darius immediately says no. He's like, absolutely not. It's a beautiful process and it was a beautiful experience, but I wouldn't do it again because I would not want to juggle 10 people anymore. Like, I don't want to go through that again. Vince was quick with it. He was like, well, you didn't have to juggle 10 people. Darius clarifies and says, I know I didn't have to, but it was requested upon this experience. And that's just a part of the, this whole experience. You got to talk to multiple people and kind of juggle between them. And I think, though, Darius has a point, right? I get what he's saying. And I think that's the essence of the show, obviously, because otherwise you kind of get eliminated if you don't have more than one connection. With Vince, though, I think because Vince didn't have multiple connections, he could say that easily. He could say, well, you didn't have to juggle multiple people. Vince's main I can't remember who else was Vince's connection aside from Donna. And maybe, what's her name, Nicole, before she left? Maybe she was a connection. I can't think of anyone else who was. I mean, Lauren, I guess. But Lauren wasn't really about nothing anyway. So, nonetheless, they're kind of going forth and back about this. And Vince is like, well, if it was a beautiful experience, why would, kind of shooting down on the fact that Darius says, yes, it's a beautiful experience, but I wouldn't do it again. Vince thinks because it's a beautiful experience, why wouldn't you do it again? So that he shoots at his intelligence here. Vince shoots at Darius's intelligence by saying, oh, he didn't understand the question. I thought the question meant this. I thought the question meant that. So he was doing some low blows there. And then the conversation leads to Vince asking the next question, which is, what did you learn about yourself during this process that was told to you or that was reported back to you? Because yes, we were directed to not talk about what we discussed in the lounge, outside of the lounge, but clearly everyone still did that. So what did you learn about yourself that you didn't realize before or whatever? So Ashley starts off by saying, well, I accept that I would rather be a foodie call than a booty call. So then this brings us to a flashback that wasn't a flashback because this wasn't a scene previously. They're showing it just now for this context. Cardi saying that Ashley is a foodie call because she's the type to want to go out with someone just because, why not? Why not go out with someone and have this food date because you buying and we're eating type. How sometimes people will go on dates with men simply for the purpose of just having a free meal. That is what is happening here. It felt like it was a shot towards Ashley. Now, what I'm gathering though here is Darius must have said that about Ashley. I know Cardi said that during the lounge, but did Darius say that it can't? I gotta rewind that back. Maybe, I don't know. The point is, now Darius and Vince is going back and forth, talking about, you need to learn how to shut the F up. Darius is saying that to Vince because Vince wants to go further into this conversation about what Ashley just said, but Darius wants him to move on. But Vince is saying, you want me to move on because you the one who said it. So I'm trying to figure out what's happening here. But nonetheless, there's tension. There's tension for sure. So we jump into the next scene. And it's Ashley introducing Darius to her little brother. And Dominique introducing Bello to her parents. Now let's start off with Dominique, because Dominique describes her parents to us. She tells us that they've been married for 48 years. Okay, that's a very long time. They both look good, like well kept. Obviously they're, of elder age, but they come from the generation where they probably got married at 19 years old, so whatever. But the point is, they've been together for a very long time, and her father is a pastor. Okay, he's a Christian man. He's a pastor, a Baptist, Pentecostal. He's a pastor. And the conflict here is Bello is Muslim. Okay, obviously a different denomination, different faith. They don't believe that Jesus is the one and true Son of God. Right? They don't believe that he's the incarnate word of God. They don't believe he's the human version. They just believe he's a prophet, another man, right? They revere Moses more than they do Jesus. And I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but typically that is the consistent findings I've had about the Muslim faith. But to each their own. They discussed this, okay? They discussed this definitely, and Dominique's father definitely feels hesitant about, not even hesitant. He says that this is a stumbling block. He feels like this is a stumbling block, and he's not comfortable with the fact that he's Muslim and not Christian. Dominique's face is all like crunched up. But she should expect this from her dad. Bello is trying to explain that, he sees religion as a guide map, right? As a guideline, a map to kind of go about life. It seems like Dominique's mom was more open to Bello. She was trying to bridge a level of understanding about the faith topic. But men of a particular age, when they're meeting their child's potential significant other, they have this scrunched up face, right? They look all, I don't know, like they immediately look unpleased, unsatisfied. They have a look of disapproval. So it doesn't seem like it's going too well. I mean, there's not an argument, but it's a little awkward. Then we get to the scene between Ashley and Ashley's brother with Darius. So Ashley's brother is her little brother, and she describes him as her favorite brother. She feels like he knows her the most or the best out of her siblings, and so she brought him to meet Darius. Darius comes in, and I don't know if it was the editing, but immediately Ashley's brother has a stank face on as well. Like, can y'all smile? I know you're trying to read this person up, trying to figure out is he really about anything? But the least he could do is stand up and shake his hand. He was still seated when he shook Darius's hand. I thought that was kind of rude. Okay, so we get into the conversation. He asked Darius, what do you like most about Ashley? Darius says he loves her heart. He then asks, what do you feel is a red flag between you and Ashley? Darius goes on and on about communication and how their communication style is a red flag, and he compared it to the tortoise and the hare, and it was just like, it was a long-winded response. And what they're getting out of this is what Ashley's been saying consistently, though. She's been saying she feels like Darius responds in riddles. He does not respond in direct responses, and it's, of course, frustrating. Ashley's brother feels the same way. Like, he actually said it himself once Darius left, and he said, yeah, he feels like he gives a long-winded response. He doesn't really answer the question directly. And he thought that was an interesting observation. He does feel like Darius is a nice guy, but Ashley wonders if he's a nice guy for her. Ashley's telling us how she feels like, okay, I communicate just fine. Like, I don't know what this communication era is, but I communicate just fine. And that's the problem with Ashley, though. Like, Ashley, can you see some fault in your ways? You think it's only him? Sure, he shouldn't have said, I don't see no 40-year-old saying no dumb shit like that. Sure, that's an aggressive way to respond. I get that. But in general, though, Ashley, I think you could do better in your communication style as well. I don't think it's right for you to share with another man in this process. At least it's one thing to talk to your brother and your close circle, but someone else in this process telling them details about your situation with Darius, I don't think it's right for you to always respond in a negative format when someone asks, what does submission look like to you? And your immediate response is, well, I'm not going to be his maid. I'm not cooking. I'm not cleaning. Like, that's dumb. That is a dumb shit to say. I take it back. Darius should have said exactly what he said. Okay? I don't see no 40-year-old say no dumbass shit like that, because that's dumb. It is dumb. What you mean you don't cook and clean? What? What are you doing? It's dumb. But nonetheless, Ashley's wondering whether he's a nice man for her. She feels like, again, yeah, he speaks in riddles, and she's not trying to crack this code. So we get this scene between Donna and Vince. Donna is introducing Vince to her brother and her cousin, who seem to be very cool. Like, I think they have very good energy. They came in, like, how the last scene I was just telling y'all how Ashley's brother Ashley's brother didn't want to get up and shake Darius's hand. And then you had Dominique's parents, well, her dad in particular, had this like stank face on the whole time, talking about, you a Muslim? Ooh, like, so it was nice to finally see a scene between the family and the potential love match of their loved one go in a way that was lighthearted, at least on the appearance side. So the hot topic conversation again is this timeline conversation on whether or not Vince is able to not adjust, but like blend in with her timeline and her desire to move in together, get engaged, have children, all these things. And, I think with this, it is a tough balance. I do agree with the brother who said that. I think he explained it well. It's a tough balance to have. I think there needs to be a give and take. I understand Vince's standpoint of well, I'm just because you got a timeline doesn't mean I gotta go with that timeline. I think there's a compromise that can be made. Like, okay, let's date with intention. As for Vince, he speaks in a way, well, I want to make sure, you're really who you say you are. And if if we don't have a heated debate or an argument in the first year, then I don't know if I could trust that you're still going to be like this in year 2. Like, I got to wait and see. It's just, I feel like with that's just life. Like, we can't, how am I going to show you how I react in every and any situation immediately? You have to wait until it happens, right? You have to wait until a circumstance take place and my emotions are present here, and you see in this live moment how I react. Like, stop this whole, I gotta see how you are when we're mad. Well, let's get to a moment when we're mad organically, rather than this whole concocted, I gotta wait and see. Like, it's just so unrealistic. It's just not a realistic way to view relationships and the time and experiences that you have with someone. Like, you have to wait and see how that goes. But as you're waiting and seeing, if you feel like this person is putting on this whole Academy Award performance and putting on face saying that, oh, everything hunky-dory, I'm totally chill, then that's your dumb ass for falling for this trickery. But it's just a part of life. You have to wait and see but as you're waiting and seeing doesn't mean that you should put things on hold, is the point that I'm making. Like, as you're waiting and seeing, you should still want to move forward, unless you see something that is totally out of line and goes against your boundaries and you don't see a future with this person. But anyway, I think all in all, this just tells me that Vince is not really interested in dating with intention. He's just here to like, hey, let's continue to kick it, but I'm not gonna move with intention. So, and Vince has been consistent with that. And Vince strikes me as someone who really stands on his opinion, his mindset. He's not easily swayed. You can't just convince him or, put some sauce on him and he's going to suddenly do what you want him to do. So it's either you acquiesce to him or you let it go, because he's not ever going to acquiesce to you. He's not. So, I mean, Donna, at this point, those are your options. So now we jump into this scene with Ashante and her connections. Okay, so Ashante introduces Bello and Darius to her parents, her mom and her stepdad. Ashante says, first of all, I didn't know she was the only child. So she's the only child, and she says her mom does not play about her. And she is kind of nervous to see how these men will be with her parents. So we start off with Darius coming in first. Darius is, with his big eyes, he's taking his glasses off and he's doing all this sweet talk. Look at her. She's a very beautiful woman. But aside from that, her heart, her soul, her spirit, what she believes in, how she believes in God, and I believe in God. We have that in common. We believe in God. Like, okay. Darius, please. Darius is so full of S. He's so full of S. Then we get to Bella. Bella walks in and he's saying, talking about how he's let me get to this question. Hold on. Let me start from the beginning. I'm taken aback by Bello here. His parent or Ashante's dad feels like Bello is a used salesman, because the way he talks, the way he communicates, he talks in a way that's like so contrived. Anyway, so Ashante's mom asked him, do you have any, have you been married before? Do you have any kids? So he says, no, he hasn't been married before. But when he was asked, do you have any kids? Bello looks up as if he had to think. If he, did he forget he just had a child? It's just the weirdest way his energy when he responds to that question, like, yeah, I do. She's 1 year old now. And immediately Ashante's mom, her face was like, wait, what? And then she says, Wait, so you had a kid just a week ago, basically, and you ready for this process? And so he gives his whole like concocted answer, trying to make it seem like he's so ready. So he talks about, oh well, yeah, the baby's been here for a year. No, baby's 14 months, but it's been really an additional 9 months. And so basically I had this kid for 2 years now. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So then the mom is asking, so what is the schedule like with how often you see the kid? Do you see the kid every weekend? Do you have her on and off? Yada, yada, yada. He's looking around like, I wonder if he was wondering if he should tell everyone at the table that, well, the kid lives in Miami. I live here in Detroit. I don't really see this kid. I saw the kid once last year. Like, I wonder if he was wondering if he should say that. But instead he says, well, we just kind of figure it out. We kind of go by mouth, whatever the saying is. And it was just so awkward because Bello was finally being questioned down about this kid of his. And look, it's one thing to have, sure, it is what it is, right? He has a kid. Like, I don't want to fault him on having a kid and fault him on wanting to find love. I think that's totally fine. I just feel like I want to see these conversations more between him and Dominique, because I see it with everyone else, right? He had his conversation with Lauren. He had his conversation with Ashante. He has yet to have this conversation with Dominique, whom he has the most connection. So when was this conversation going to be introduced? Does Dominique know? It's like, I know she knows. I remember there was a scene in the lounge of them talking about it, but Dominique was like, oh, he does? So again, we don't see Bello directly telling Dominique about his child, or Dominique bringing it up to him like, hey, I know about your child. What are you going to tell me? We don't see that. Anyway, so then Ashante's mom asks, so where do you see yourself in 3 years? Like, what is your plan for 3 years? Basically, where do you see yourself for in the next 3 years with my daughter? So Darius answers and he says, within the next 3 years, I want to have a family. I want to settle down and get married. And then I'm thinking, Darius, you do have a family. Darius, you have 4 children. You have a family. You're built in. But he kind of saves it by saying, we could just be the Brady Bunch. We could just blend our kids together. So I like that he finally said that at the end to clarify, oh, hey, I'm already coming in with kids. Just as Ashante is coming in with her daughter, her 10-year-old daughter. But we get to Bello. Bello's response to this, he's talking about, oh, within the next 3 years, I have these duplexes that I'm building, and they're for this demographic and this socioeconomic class of people, and it's gonna be around 1.2 million Canadian dollars. And it's like, is this your business plan? Like, sir, we're asking about in relation to our daughter. Where do you see your relationship with our daughter within the next 3 years? Okay. And I felt like he was feeling himself, like trying to feel like, I got money. I got big money. I got 1.2 Canadian dollars coming. I got big money. Sir, bye. So we get this scene with Ashante, and she is meeting with, first it starts out with her meeting with Bello. Bello's walking up to her, and then we see Darius joins them as well. So Bello's like, wait, what? What's going on? But clearly from how this scene is set up, Ashante is taking the lead here in this whole scene. She gives her compliments to both gentlemen, but decides ultimately to choose herself. Or to not choose either of them. She says, I'm not choosing either of you. And primarily because she felt like a placeholder. She felt like she was the one to go to whenever their top connections weren't acting right, or if they were bored with their connections or whatever the case is. She just felt like a placeholder, and she didn't appreciate that, of course. And she also felt like they didn't really pursue her romantically, which again makes her feel like a placeholder. And I appreciate her saying that and giving her reasonings behind it, and not just saying, oh, I choose myself, but also saying, it's not about me choosing myself. That's all, like, that's a given, right? I choose myself naturally by not choosing y'all. Okay, cool. But the point here is I'm not choosing either of y'all because of these reasons. And I like the distinction in how she said that. And I feel like she left with a positive attitude. She wasn't woe is me about it. She wasn't accusatory or rude at all. Even Darius said, I understand. I know what, I get what you're saying. Basically agreeing with her that she was low-key a placeholder. And I think it's great that she said, I'm not choosing y'all. I'm not picking you, right? She's not picking them. And I wanted them to feel that moment of like rejection, because ultimately we knew that neither of them were picking her. But it was nice to see that she was given this scene to not pick them, right? To kind of give some ownership and power to her. And obviously maybe it was just like a scene that they conjured up to make her leave with this great tone, but ultimately I like the messaging that this scene gave. So we finally get to decision days or moments, for real, and we start off with Vince and Donna. Vince has his bouquet of flowers. Donna looks amazing. I love her fit. I love the look that she has on. I love the little high ponytail, the red lip. She looked good. Vince, I'm not a fan of that color on you. Maybe a different shade of red, but nonetheless, it's on a fashion review. Vince talking about, if you allow things to flow naturally and organically, and if you are okay with going with the flow, then I choose you. What? Did y'all hear that too? I didn't like that. I didn't like the way he started it off. I mean, he was trying to explain that, her timeline scares him and all these things. Scare you from what, nigga? You've been married before. Scare you from what? But maybe that's it, because he's been married before. But nonetheless, he starts off by saying that, and then he says, of course, I choose you. Then we jump into a scene between Darius and Ashley. Darius is saying how we prayed for this. I never thought I could feel these types of emotions, and you brought things out of me I didn't realize I had. And he's really giving it up, right? He's giving it up. He's a real nigga giving it up. This whole time, Ashley looks like she's about to, she looked like she's holding back tears. And it's clear that he's pouring himself in this moment, and Ashley is just receiving him. So then we jump into the next scene between Bello and Dominique. Bello, of course, chooses her, and he says how ever since he first met her in that turquoise dress, he chose her then, and he chooses her now. So now we get into the scene between, now we get to the scene with the women sharing whether or not they choose him. So we start off with Ashley. Ashley's explaining to Darius, and she starts breaking down. She's saying how she feels like he doesn't appreciate who she is right here, right now, because he's always correcting her, always trying to change her, and she feels like she's afraid to choose him because she doesn't know if it's the right decision, if it will backslide her in her progression. Apparently she's taking spiritual warfare classes. What the fuck? What is that? It's like, I know what spiritual warfare is, but what is a spiritual warfare class? Is that at the U of H? What university is holding spiritual warfare classes? Okay, but The point is, I'm wondering what I want her to share more about that. I wish we would have got more understanding with that because, and that's the thing, we never got some backstory with Ashley. That's why I felt like she wasn't really giving more in-depth responses, because what were her previous relationships like? Was she in relationships that made her feel less than? Was an ex-boyfriend of hers always trying to change her? Was she in an abusive relationship? Like, what is the backstory there? Because she broke down and was really sad in that moment explaining this to him. And Darius naturally cares for her, so he could see him upset that she's getting upset. But again, her breaking down like this tells me she went through some stuff in her previous relationships that made her feel like she needed to go through, she needed to enroll in a spiritual warfare class. Because, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what is that? It's funny how editing makes you feel like it's going to go one way, but it goes the obvious way. So right before Dominique makes her decision to Bello, we see her like embrace his face, and there's like this background music of like dun, 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 like, what is she gonna do? Oh my gosh, is she gonna switch up on him? But ultimately she does choose him. She says how she felt like she's felt like she's been at home ever since she met him, and he is someone who she feels like God told her man is in this room. And Bella was the first person she met, and yada yada yada. So she's saying, oh, I chose you then, and I choose you now. So boom, we got that down. So now we get this scene between Donna and Vince. Donna says, you've given me the best gift ever, and that is your honesty. You've been very clear with me, and I appreciate that. And even in times when she felt things were unclear, which I don't know what she meant by that, because you just said he gave you a lot of, he gave you honesty. But nonetheless, she says that not only are you honest with me, but I feel this physical safety from you. I feel protected. You are King Mufasa. Aaron, Pierre, it's Mufasa. No, but she lifted him up. But his Barristan Bear face ass, he's looking at her like, you better say yes. You better say yes. So she said, I choose you too. So that was cute. I'm rooting for them. But I mean, ultimately, Donna, look, it is what it is. Like, if you want to be with Vince, I think that's great. I think it's fine. I think they have a good chemistry. I think they have a nice level of just like energy with each other. I think she gets him more than anyone else here in this process got him, out of the women especially. So why not? I mean, why not figure it out? Why not go with the flow at this point? But all I'm saying is, if you're expecting a timeline to be followed, please stop expecting that. Please don't expect that. I think things could flow naturally, and if it takes a year, then it takes a year, and that's great. But if it takes longer than a year, then understand that, hey, that's what going with the flow means. But anyway, they hug and it's cute. And then we wrap up with this last scene. Ashley chose Darius. Finally, right? It was, at what point I'm thinking, is she reluctantly choosing him? Because, she did the whole breakdown. She's crying. He's comforting her. Is this a manipulative choice here? No. I think it was genuine. I think she was just genuinely sharing her concerns because she doesn't want to feel like she's not enough. And this is probably giving me some backstory to past relationships she's had that made her feel that way. So ultimately, he's building her up here in this moment, right? He's trying to reassure her, I love who you are right now. Like, I love the fact that you're a business owner. And I want to get to know you more. And right, so he's trying to build her up more, and he's saying, let's get on this journey let's create our own journey, right? So let's not, put too much pressure on. Let's just create our own journey. And I think that kind of helped sway her to say yes. I think she ultimately wanted to say yes anyway, but some insecurities from her past were creeping in. And I hope they don't turn out to be true. It seemed like she really likes him too. And she says she's ready to love Darius. I'm ready to love Darius. And it seems like he likes her or is about to love her too. I don't know. I know there's a lot of talk around town about him being a to-be actor. I mean, people got to have a job, right? Just because you're an actor doesn't mean that you an actor here. Doesn't mean he was acting here. So I'm choosing to believe the positive about him. So we'll see. I can't wait to review the reunion and see how that goes. But that's about it, y'all. Let me know what you think about this finale episode. Let me know what you think about this season overall. It has been a joy. I have thoroughly enjoyed this season, and I can't wait to review the reunion. All right. So go ahead and like, share, subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. That's the like button, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.